John Savage again with Unwind Financial Health and Wealth to educate, inspire, and liberate. So, today, what I want to talk about briefly is minding your words and minding your thoughts. There's a lot to say with that, right? 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week, 4 weeks a month, 12 months a year. And we're constantly dealing with a lot of things that we're bombarded with, right? And in the United States, our society has definitely shifted in the last 5, 10, 15 years in so many different ways. Things are fast paced. You can have things right now. You're definitely bombarded with messages from media from all angles, literally, day and night. On your phone, you have people trying to lead you and lure you in many cases into things when you get some kind of random pop up to messages on YouTube to Instagram. You get extra messages about selling stuff, constantly buying stuff, making $1 million here, making six figures, things you're not even asking for. But maybe because you fit a certain demographic, population group, zip code, whatever the reason, media, specifically companies that are paying for marketing hundreds of millions of dollars a year, they will spare no expense. They won't use it to lower expenses for business, right? But they'll spare no expense to get their words and their images before your eye gates and your ear gates. So we want to be careful about what we say when we're dealing with situations, specifically when you're dealing with financial challenges and just challenges in life in general, because it can affect your finances, right? And then we just deal with financial challenges in general at times, whether you're a business owner, whether you're an individual just working, just trying to get started. There's going to be things that come up where we have an opportunity to choose our words and choose what we hear that affects our thoughts. And so, as you see, there's a scripture here behind me, Matthew 4:4. It says, "Man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God." So we could be tempted with all kinds of things, constantly, day and night. And so we have to really choose when we're dealing with challenges, when we're dealing with things that seem insurmountable, when we're dealing with obstacles. Um, how you look at them, you can look at them as just complete failures or ruin or I'll never get out of this. Or we can choose what we say by what we hear and by what we think. And what we think, if we meditate on long enough, will get into our heart. That's why we have to choose our words and what we meditate on. And that's why it's also important. It doesn't matter what your journey might look like. It takes some time, many times, to get to a certain destination where you want to be. So don't look at someone else to the left or to the right. You focus on your goal, what you're called to do, and then where you need help, ask for help. But some of the things I want to talk about is just even words. I'll encourage my children, don't say, "I can't," because I say, and sometimes my oldest, she might get tired of hearing it, or she used to, "Can't never could." It's a saying I got a long time ago. And I continue to say it and declare it when there's situations and times I've had to say it for myself is "can't never could," but you can. Let me repeat that again. When the kids will say "can't," my kids say "can't," I'll say, "I don't want to hear can't." We don't say can't in this household. You might be dealing with some challenges, some obstacles. We might be dealing with something, but it doesn't mean we can't overcome it, because we can. The thing is figuring out how you can overcome it. Some things it just takes time. Some things you just deal with in life. They come up, you make a mistake or you make a decision, you do the best you can, but you keep it moving. And so you own that when you make a decision and you keep it moving. If you did it for the right reasons and you did it with calculated decisions to the best of your knowledge, trying to do the right thing, especially when it comes to finances. I deal with a lot of people. I've dealt with people who are making $500,000 a year to those making, again, you'll hear me say this, 25, 35,000. In some cases, they're making less than 10,000. They're on Social Security income, fixed income. They're on disability. They're getting 60%, or sometimes it feels like less in some cases of what they should be getting, partial checks or no checks, just because of circumstantial matters. But regardless, in every situation, do your best to speak the right words over yourself and over your situation. When you're looking at finances, you want to look at opportunities. opportunities to achieve more, opportunities to be more, opportunities to do more. When something comes before you, if you feel like, okay, I failed, use failure as a learning lesson. We can always learn something from it. Even if there's something people say, well, if you make make the mistake twice and you're not learning. That's not necessarily true. Sometimes you have to do something over and over and over to refine it. Athletes know that. It takes time. And as you continue to refine it, you get better. And you do your best with the capacity of which you've been given, just like with the people with the talents in the Bible, where you have one was given one talent, you have another who was given three talents, you have another who's given five talents, and then when the master came back, he had to give an account. Everybody had to give an account of what they did or didn't do. And so our words, by our words we're justified, and by our words we're condemned. So you have to choose this day what words you're going to speak over yourself, over your family, over your business, over your circumstances, over how you deal with things in the finances. So when it comes to finances, choose words like, this is what I would like to have. This is what I would like to see. This is what I am believing for. I know I can. It's a matter of how. What do I need to do to overcome this situation? And so you have to start choosing your words, speaking life over yourself. And so some of the things you want to think about too is like, if you keep speaking the same thing, you're hearing that thing that you keep speaking. And if you're saying, this is bad, people are bad, these people are negative, or these people said, you can't worry about what people say about you. People are going to talk about you whether you're up or down. I've had people say stuff about me, I'm not even in the room, and turn around and say something to someone else about me, and it's not even true or accurate by any means, or take misinformation. You're going to have that. That's life. And when you deal with finances, there can be a hierarchy, right? In a society, there's a lot of division at times. And the way the society is designed is like you go and get your own, you do your own, instead of having a support base and working together. You got to focus on having a circle of people around you who are those who believe in God, who will pray for you, who will support you, who will tell you the truth and wisdom, but they know what they're talking about. They got to know you. There's people who will talk at you and say things, and then you take those words, and it seems like they'll reverberate over time. You'll never be anything. You're always going to be a screw up. You're going to no. Don't listen to any of those words. We cast down all those vain imaginations and high and lofty thoughts that would try to exalt themselves against the knowledge of God, because what God said, He knows the thoughts He thinks towards you, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a good and expected end. So you focus on, what is that expected end for me? You write down what you need to do. If you see your finances are out of place, first stop and say, okay, what can I do differently? What do I have the internal locus of control over? What can I focus on? And how can I get better? Focus on all the things you can do and not what you can't do. Okay? Because there's things that you have an ability to do that you're called to do. Don't try and be like somebody else. Don't try and go and make $1 million like somebody else. Don't try and go, I got to have six figures like somebody else. No, you're going to operate in a capacity in which you're operating where you're at right now. What can you do with what you have? So when I'm talking to people about their finances, I focus on, I had a lady this week, for example. She's like, well, I said, how are you doing? I'm doing okay. She's just kind of thinking about some different things, and she wasn't feeling the best. But as we continued to talk and I listened, she's like, yeah, nothing much has really changed. But I continue to listen. I didn't look at the numbers. The numbers tell a story, which I always will tell everybody in their finances when you're looking at your budget. But what's the truth of that story? Even people's credit, the number will tell you a story. But there's a lot of things that aren't accurate on people's credit scores. And the credit score is a whole other thing that man has made up, and people will put you down and condemn you about that. But our information is sold. We just don't get paid for it. So what you want to focus on is, what are the opportunities? What can I do? What do I see before me? So anyway, as I was talking to this lady, I just continued to listen, because my goal as a financial health counselor is, what is the root of where this client is at right now or what she's dealing with? And she began to say all these things that she did get done, and she did do, not as much as she wanted to, but as she continued to talk, I think I listed about 10 different things that she either observed of her current financial situation, that she actually did get done, or the progress that she had made. She couldn't see it because she was so close to it. That's why it's important to find someone who's non judgmental, who's going to tell you the truth, but tell you the truth in love. And what that looks like, everybody needs a different level of love, right? Some people need more hard love because they're intentionally doing things and being destructive, and they're not listening, they're not taking responsibility, they're trying to shirk responsibility. We're all different in different places. And then others need more gentle reminder. Say, hey, hold up, this glass is half full. And I don't even always say half full. This glass is three-fourths full. This glass is 80% full. And so you don't have to mimic everything someone else is saying, but the whole point about it is trying to put some real perspective into what someone's going through. And sometimes people just need you to come alongside them and speak life over them. They already know about the words of death and casting down and putting themselves down. Most people are good at that with negative self-talk because of what they've heard, what they've experienced, or the trauma they've gone through. And a lot of times those outside voices, there's only so much you can do without external locus of control, right? But those outside voices, even those who mean well, many times they put their foot in their mouth. They don't know what they're talking about. And I've had to do that with friends and family and just be quiet and say not a word, um, and just sit back and sometimes kind of laugh about it later. Other times I kind of like, I'm just glad that's over because that was a waste of my time. And that's what I have to remember is like you can learn from what you're hearing and seeing and doing. So you just need someone to come alongside you who's going to observe certain things that you might not be able to see from a certain perspective. It's like with the Rubik's Cube, there's a lot of pieces to put together. And it's complicated, at least for me putting one of those together. I've put them partially together. Um, but one thing I've learned with that Rubik's Cube, and if you observe it long enough and you're working with it, you begin to put the pieces together. It takes time for most of us to put all sides of the colors together. Even when something's out of place, you got to look at the progress you've made. I'm excited about, okay, hey, I've put all this together, but now I might need some help from someone else who's at another level with the Rubik's Cube to say, hey, I know why you have three colors out of place. And over here you have one. Let me show you the pattern to put this in place because there's people who've gone ahead of us, and there's people who are walking with us, and there's people who are behind us. And they all have a place in our life. To those behind us, they need us to keep going. They need us to speak life and to see what we're doing to overcome our own situation. And then we have those who are with us. They just need to walk with us and encourage us and to stay with us and to hold us accountable when it comes to finances, for example, because it can be easy to want to give up. And then you have those who are ahead of you who are already gone to the destination to where you want to be. And that can look like, you know what, I just want to have a better, solid retirement. You know what, I want to know more about investments. But before I can do that, I need to get my budget in order because I have $12,000 I'm spending and I don't know where it's going. I've had conversations like that. I've had people where we've identified recently there was an extra $24,000 to $30,000 that they had that they could free up by making some adjustments. They didn't know it because they were so close to it. And it's like, hey, this is good what you're doing. You got a lot of money in this account, but right now, this account is causing you three times negative amortization. So you go into retirement, but you got a ton of debt, and you got this retirement account that's not yielding what you're yielding in interest and fees over here. You're going to be in a tight situation. So I try and give people perspective and give them insight about their finances of things that what I call sometimes blind spots that they might not see, or they have fear of making adjustments. Well, I got to keep this way because they said, and then my question is who are they? Who are they? Is it the market makers? Is it the media? Is it the salespeople? Who is it telling you that you should have the same amount of money everybody else should have, even though they have different values, different family sizes, they have different lifestyles at different age groups, different health conditions, or health statuses? I'm not going to say conditions, but health statuses. Live in different parts of the country. Some people are going to leave and move out of the country where it's going to be cheaper. Their American dollars will go five times further there than they will even in the United States. So everybody's in a different place. So you've got to run your race. You've got to stay your course and speaking the words of yourself and declaring what you want. You have to write it down. That's where you get into goals. But with goals, what they help you with your vision and where you want to be in your financial situation is You've got to look at, okay, this is where I'm at now. I might need to eliminate some debt. Oh, I want to go from having $1,000 a month in emergency savings to $3,000 a month to comfortably cover all my expenses. But what does that look like? Let's take a look. Let's look at your habits. Let's look at what you've done or not done. Let's look at maybe some exposure. I've talked to some people. It's not that they're on the right track and they're just thinking, I'm so bad at this. I've had a lot of people say, don't judge me. And I'm listening to them. I'm like, you've done a lot of the work. There's a lot of times the little things you need to tweak. There's a lot. It's the little foxes many times that spoil the vine. Really, it's not the big foxes. They're easier to see, but it's the little tiny foxes we think, oh, they're so cute, or oh, it doesn't really matter, or well, that's no big deal. But that big thing over there is destructive. But no, we don't want to discount the little things, and the little things that just need minor tweaking can make a big difference over time, right? So we want to remember that. We want to remember what we have done, focus on what you've done. And each evening, each night, I'd encourage you to sit down, maybe in the morning, and say, okay, what would I like to accomplish today? What am I going to focus on accomplishing today? Even if you don't get everything done on your list, because, excuse me, life brings circumstances, or you have a meeting that pops up, or if you're dealing with like a Scrum, Agile, project management situations, there's times where you got to pivot and you got to put things in the backlog, right? The product backlog, and you've got to make adjustments because certain things have just shifted in priority in the market, or now they become obsolete. And so you don't want to waste your time on that. You want to save time, efficiency, and cost. So, whatever that might look like, just planning, but also recognizing and focusing on the good that you've accomplished for the day. And then write down a list of what are the opportunities of things I can do for tomorrow. What can I do better tomorrow? So focus on getting better, not what you think you did or didn't do, because you've always done something well. Sometimes just showing up in a space and smiling. You know what? I'm glad I like to smile. You know what? I love laughing, and I notice certain people seem to be encouraged when I laugh. So laugh more, speak highly of other people, speak words over them, and recognize and say something good about them. Like, I like the way you do whatever it is on the job. Maybe if you're a manager, maybe it's been tough on the job. Maybe if you can encourage people to let them know you care about them, you genuinely care, and you can speak words of life and encouragement, then maybe some of the self-talk or negativity that you've been experiencing, maybe from others or your feeling about your job, will start changing. Even if you can't change certain things and you don't only have control over certain things, again, you can only control your words and your thoughts. And they'll influence what you think about and what you meditate on, which eventually will affect your body and can affect your body depending on what it is. So we want to try and focus on the positive words, the positive affirmations of ourselves, declare the word over your life, and just know that as you continue to focus on what is good, it will get better. David at 17 was anointed. He had great, handsome, strong brothers. He had all these brothers. The prophet Samuel came looking for the one who was going to be king when he came to Jesse, right? And David is minding his own business. He's the youngest of the bunch, the smallest of the bunch. This young, ruddy, handsome young guy dealing with sheep, smelling like sheep, looking like the sheep. And that's another thing there. Um, but you got to recognize where you're at. And then sheep, they know the voice of their owner versus a stranger. And they respond to the owner. They respond to the one who is leading and watching over them, and they recognize their voice. But the voice of a stranger, they won't follow. So the voice of a stranger looks like, you can't do that. You're terrible at that. You're ugly. You're too big. You're too skinny. You're not smart enough. You don't speak well enough. You don't have enough money, or you failed again, or I don't need to listen to you because look at where you're at. All that is foolishness. If you know you're doing the right things and you're on the right track and you're giving your all, that's the voice of the stranger. It's negative, it's dark, it's unproductive, and it's unfruitful. Those words cause death over your life, your circumstances, and everything over time. Cast those words down and begin to speak life over yourself. Even if you dealt with things and saw bad habits financially and traumatic situations, what you want to focus on is, I can do this. I am good at this. I'm good at numbers. This is what I would like to do. You know what? I'm good at encouraging people. I'm going to become a great counselor. You know what? I'm good at understanding medical terminology and showing compassion. I can deal with blood and see contusions and all kinds of things happening with people and not be freaked out by it, but I have compassion and I have the ability to be able to see from a 3, 4, 5 dimension and help people. I'm going to become a medical doctor or a nurse or anesthesiologist, whatever that looks like. So you start speaking over the things you want. I don't care if you were in school at one point, you had 1 year left of college, and this is something you really need to go to school for to get this particular credential and training, then you find a way to go. There's opportunities. You don't always have to borrow money. Sometimes people will say, well, I don't have the money, so I can't. I knew someone a long time ago, went to school with an RTC. I thought she was just amazing, just really sweet personality, smart, and very balanced. And I remember talking to her, and she had more rank than me and everything, and accomplished. And she's like, "Yeah, I would go to school, but I can't because I don't have the money." And I tried to encourage her and say, "You can." There's nothing wrong with going in the military, which she did. And I'm sure she did very well, but I tried to encourage her. It hurt me because I'm like, I was sitting there, how am I going to get in school? I was afraid of just even going on a big campus. It was just overwhelming to me because that wasn't necessarily a conversation in my family. But I said, she can do this. And I tried to encourage her, and I was speaking life over her. And I was just like, don't say you can't. You can, you can, you can. You got over a 3.8 GPA. You speak to, you're multilingual. You're well accomplished. You've finished ROTC 2 years, 4 years. You've done all these things. And so when I saw that, I was like, I just tried to do the best I could to encourage her. But then it was ultimately up to her to do it. She could and take those words, either receive them or not receive them. But then at that point, like when you're encouraging someone, it's not in your hands, it's in their hands now. But it has to go from their head to their heart, and then they have to believe it and then take action. Because what we think about, right? What we speak about, what we hear, faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And so anything when we speak over our life, we've been given the ability, whatever we believe and where we're at, to speak over something long enough and to see certain things happen. Thankfully, the more positive things will happen than negative things, but negative things over a long period of time can influence you and causes trauma in the body as well. So I just wanted to just leave that with you today, just to encourage you that as you're dealing with financial circumstances, just start dealing with tools, putting some things in place to help you organize your thoughts, to organize your mind, to organize your finances, and start with where you're at. Don't worry about where you think you are or you aren't. Start with where you're at, recognize where you would like to be, write that down, setting goals. Goals will help dictate, markers. You can create timelines of where you want to be. Don't get so stuck where you can't pivot and adjust, because you're going to have to do that at times. Okay, sometimes that's going to have to happen. Maybe it doesn't happen for 24 months, but maybe it happens 60 months later. It's really okay. Just focus on what you have accomplished, what you've gotten done, and how far you've gotten, but also have a purpose for everything you do. Like I tell people, you have a credit card, have a purpose for every credit card. So that way, situations come up, emergencies come up, you're going on travel, business, maybe your job reimburses you and they expect you to pay certain expenses up front. You're able to use each credit card responsibly and accordingly, and then better organize and track your finances to give you more peace of mind, more clarity, and focus. And so, anyway, there's more to that. I just wanted to encourage you guys today, and just know that these words and what you speak and what you do help you to put a pen to the paper so you can write the vision, make it plain, and run with it. You'll hear that in Habakkuk 2:2. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to do good and to recognize the good that we have done and how far we have come. But we also need to recognize we need help, because nobody can do this alone, right? So with that said, until next time, if you want to learn more about me, you can to reach out about my services or have questions about certain things I might be able to do, go to my website at unwindfinancial.org. That's unwindfinancial.org. Or you can email me at info@unwindfinancial.org. Thank you so much, and until next time, unwind and enjoy the rest of your Labor Day. Thank you, and God bless.